Hello everybody, Jan Michael here. Just got back from seeing the film Dunkirk. This is the new movie by Christopher Nolan. And I know there is a lot of Christopher Nolan fans out there. While he might not be my favorite director, I definitely think that his films are very solid movies. So I went into Dunkirk expecting to at the very least come away with an enjoyment of the film. But I gotta tell you, I'm actually very surprised by what I saw. And now that I've gotten back from seeing the flick, it's time to ask the question. Does Dunkirk suck? Let's find out. If you guys don't know the real life story of Dunkirk, I'm going to throw out a little bit of history for you. This was a battle that took place in the 1940s that ended up leading to the evacuation of the British and the Allied forces. The soldiers were pretty much trapped on this beach as the Germans were closing in on them, and the only way for them to really get out of this situation was to get on boats and sail across the seas over into Britain, which you could pretty much see right over on the horizon. The only problem is, because they were trapped, there were enemy airplanes coming down and dropping bombs on them. A lot of their boats exploded. These people were pretty much ready to die. There was not much they could do. Maybe some of the boats were going to be able to get through, but these soldiers knew that it was only a matter of time before the enemies finally broke through and pretty much took them all out. And this film is pretty much just that. So I have to tell you, if the thought of a continuous battle throughout a film, just a battle, sounds dull to you, you're probably not gonna like Dunkirk. For me, however, I thought this film was fantastic. I thought it was very, very well done. I gotta tell you, there are very little things that I can say negatively about the film. Maybe one tiny little thing, which I will get to towards the end. But you know what? Let's talk about the good first. Pretty much 98% of the film, 99% of the film. So, here we go.
The enemy tanks have stopped.
Why?
Why waste precious tanks when they can pick us off from the air like fish in a barrel?
There's a lot of different characters that the movie follows. You actually get to see the war from a couple of people's point of view. You get to see it from just a regular soldier's point of view. You get to see it from an Air Force soldier's point of view. You even get to see it from a civilian's point of view, because a big chunk of the film is also how civilians decided to go out into this dangerous situation to try to rescue as many soldiers as possible. So you get to see the film from all these different perspectives, and there's a bunch of different characters who are just talking about the war and their thoughts on it. And it's handled very well. You get a sense of who the characters are just by their actions. Because there's no real scene here where people get a moment to sit down and talk about themselves. There's nobody asking like what their backstory might be, or if there's somebody waiting back home, which I think is fine. I think that's a cliche that might have been a bit overdone in war films. Not that it's bad, but here you just find out who the characters are by what they do and the few things that they do say. You get a sense for who they are. And it's all accompanied extremely well with the music. There's a really intense moments in the film where you don't know who's gonna live, who's gonna die. Nobody's really immune to death here, and the music really makes these scenes like stand out. You're at the edge of your seat. You're nervous. You're wondering what's gonna happen next. And it's funny because the music itself, I think if you just listen to it without any of the scenarios, I think it's just one loud so it's not even that fantastic of a score, but mixed with the scenarios and what's happening in the film, it works great. I think it all blends together just fantastically. The sounds in the film are really well done. This gunfire feels like actual gunfire, or sounds like actual gunfire. It's not typical movie gunfire. It's not your generic bang. I feel like maybe this is what a realistic gunfire would sound like. Not that I'm an expert on that, but it definitely made it feel more believable. You get the ships that kind of go down in realistic ways. It's not an explosion and all of a sudden the boat's cracking in two and it's a huge set piece moments. The boats are hit, they tip over, people are jumping off the side. It all looks really realistic and horrifying, and you could only imagine what the real life battle must have been like. And yeah, it's all just mixed in brilliantly.
He's coming back round. He's coming back round!
The directing here is also very, very solid. The cinematography is great. I think it all looks very beautiful, if you can consider war beautiful at all. But it's all captured very, very well. And keep in mind that this is just a PG-13 film. This isn't R-rated. There's no limbs flying off or anything. So with just the PG-13 to get the horrors of war, I think is very, very impressive. Kudos again to Christopher Nolan. He definitely went above and beyond shooting this film and getting the emotions just right. So overall, just a solid flick. Now, speaking about the negative, and again, this is one tiny little negative aspect. It doesn't spoil the film at all, but just if I could nitpick, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more character development. I think there are some characters that you really don't get a full sense of who they are. And Tom Hardy's character comes to mind. He's the person who's in the air in the cockpit the entire time. He has the mask over his face. He's shooting down enemy planes, but he's pretty much in that cockpit like 98% of the film. So you really don't get a feel for who he is at all. You don't know what his aspirations are, or anything like that. That's really important, but you know, like, his character is a central focus, so hopefully you wanted to get a little bit more out of it. Now, that doesn't mean he's a bad character. I really liked following him. It was very, very interesting to see what he went through, how he went above and beyond to with his situation. But I think just a little bit more character development there with some of the other characters as well. Like there's characters that go through these traumatic experiences, but because you don't really get to fully know who they are before that happened, you kind of the impact is softened just a little bit. And again, not bad. This is just a nitpick. I think it does a fantastic job of showing you who the characters are without somebody having to talk about it. It's just you see what they do and you understand who they are. But again, a little bit more characterization, a little bit more of following of each character, I think would have gone a long way to really ratcheting up those moments even more. But again, just one tiny little nitpick. I'm trying to like really pull out that this is not a problem whatsoever. It doesn't mean that I like the film any less. It's just a little observation that I noticed, and that's pretty much about it with that criticism.
We have a job to do.
If we go there, we'll die.
So, does Dunkirk suck? I'm going to say no, not at all. It is a very, very strong film. I highly recommend you guys go out and check it. If you're a fan of Christopher Nolan works, you're going to enjoy this one. If you're a fan of war films, you're definitely going to enjoy this. If you're not a fan of either of those things, yeah, probably not for you. But no, I don't think the film sucks at all. Though ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, that is up for you to decide. If you've seen the film, let me know what you thought in the comments down below. And of course, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Until next time, have a good one.
You can practically see it from here.
What?
Home.